Sweet. So on today's episode of the Optimized Experience, which is the first episode of the Optimized Experience, we have an insanely amazing guest with us, Jeff Morgan from SportsForce. Jeff is actually our longest tenured client. He's our first client. SportsForce is Jeff and Andrew. Today we have Jeff, who is would it be safe to say you're the director of operations?
Yeah, I mean, I
SportsForce?
could probably add another six titles there, but we'll go with that.
Yeah, Jeff wears many hats, as you may be able to tell throughout the video. So
Yeah.
we're super excited to share how the optimized experience has been with him. So Jeff, I'd love it if you want to do like a quick intro to tell us a little bit about SportsForce, about yourself, and about your position at SportsForce.
Yeah, so yeah, my name's Jeff Morgan. I work for a company called SportsForce. In essence, what we do is we help high school athletes try to find a place to play college sports. Um, we're right now mostly focused on baseball, but we want to expand into multiple sports moving forward. Company's been around for about 20 years or so. Andrew Beinbrink started it. He was a former baseball college player. He played a little bit in professional league. He played in the minors, but never got that call up to the majors. And he kind of saw an opportunity and a place to make a difference in the recruiting process because his own recruiting process was not easy and it's hard to get noticed by college coaches. And so he was like, hey, I kind of have a background in this and let me start something and try to help kids that are solid players but don't have any access to college coaches or aren't being seen or things like that. And so he created Sports Force. And I actually started with the company, believe it or not, by answering a Craigslist ad for a video editing internship. This was back in 2009. I I've always been interested in sports. I always wanted to do something in sports, and I saw the ad. It sounded interesting, and so I answered it. I met Andrew for the first time, and somehow 15 years later, more at this point, I'm still here. And now I obviously I'm not a video editing intern, but I basically have managed a client team for years and years, and now I'm also managing the sales team and just continue to build what we've done here, and we have high ambitions to be one of the best recruiting services out there to help as many kids as possible. And I kind of am the I don't know the person who makes the engine work, for
Yeah,
lack of a better term. So yeah, that's kind of
yeah,
Sports
you're
Force in a nutshell.
a little bit behind the scenes, but
Yeah,
all of the operations run through you.
yeah, all the operations, most of the systems that we've created, I have my hands in there, and in some capacity. I think as we'll see, I do a lot, and your Airtable and what you've done,
Yeah,
Ben has been a big part of that too. So
yeah. So Sports Force, from my understanding, it's mainly geared towards high school athletes and getting them offers at D1 colleges, D2,
yep,
D3, NA. I don't know all. I
yeah,
know a few of them.
NAIA,
NAIA.
JCs, junior colleges, yeah, things like that. We do work with a handful of transfer kids, so kids who are in junior college and are looking to go to a
Hmm.
4 year. But probably 90% or more of our clients are high school athletes.
And so I think I don't know how much you want to get into everything you do at Sports Force, but a lot of what the systems we built and like how you've delivered that experience has traditionally been on like one-on-one with people, but you've also launched an app over the last year. Is that right?
Yeah, so we had an older website that needed a lot of love, and so we created a new basically app or website that you know allows student athletes to put all their stats, their video, their photos, their information, so college coaches can click on their profile and kind of see everything in one place. So that is a big part of the experience. They can also search for college coaches on there and be able to find information and all that stuff. So there's a lot of good information on that. Um, and really, one of the big challenges we had before we started, working with you, is we had a ton of information and it was in 50,000 different places.
Hmm.
Google Drive or our CRM or our CMS or over here, you'd have to search through emails to find old
Yeah.
information and things like that. So one of the big challenges we really had before we started working with you was organization. and just
Hmm.
finding all the documentation that we had. Because, like I said, it was just scattered in so many different places. Kind of a nightmare to find everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you still use Google Sheets for a few things, but I
Yep.
remember when we first, this was over 4 years ago now. So back in, I'd say like the summer of 2020, we started out ripping and replacing a bunch of Google Sheets. I think we were integrating everything we could with Zapier. I
Yep.
remember we were like doing auto generation of Google Docs, I think.
Yeah. Yep. We helped try to create some Google Docs. Again, the big thing was automation and organization. We were
Hmm.
again, everything was in multiple places, and one task I'd have to update it in four different places, multiple Google Sheets, and over here and over there, and such a slow and tedious process. And then the other big thing is turning a lot of manual processes that I was doing and creating either full automation or at least
Hmm.
partial automation to help with a lot of the tasks that I was doing, so I could focus on continuing to build new systems and things like that, and not spend so much time and energy on these manual repeatable tasks. That was, I think, the big thing when we first started working with you that we tried to address.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess thinking back to that, one of the things that made that a lot easier was using, because when I first started, I was not like, I'd say an Airtable expert at that point.
Sure.
Like I wasn't like 100% bullish on Airtable exclusively, but I think it was really through working with you and seeing, okay, here's everything in Google Sheets, and then here's how this could look like as a
Right.
relational database in Airtable. That was like the big unlock and what made a lot of these like for example, you're keeping track of some sort of project in relation to the student athlete that you're trying to get this D1 offer. And so then being able to have like be able to track the project and the athlete in the same place. I don't want to go into all the secret sauce of like how exactly you guys do everything, but being able to build all of that in a relational database was, I think, the key.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first projects that we worked on was taking all of our clients, which again existed on a Google Sheet that had to be manually updated with where they were at or what they needed done or things like that. Taking all that information, putting it in Airtable, creating stages so we could track where they are in the recruiting process, creating tasks off of them to be like, okay, we have to do this task for this specific client, updating stages automatically, then updating statuses whether via Slack or via email, things like that. Again, our main kind of client team member who
Hmm.
keeps track of most of the clients, everything he does is updated in Airtable now. It's not in Google Sheets, which has no relational data, right? Like you update a column and that's it.
Yeah.
But in Airtable, you can update a status and now it can do five different things. And
Yeah.
so it just makes things so much easier and there's full transparency on it. So if my boss comes to me and says, "Hey, how many athletes are in, stage 2 of the recruiting process?" Boom,
Yeah.
I can see everything. I can know exactly where they're at, when they got added, how long it took them to get there. I mean, there's so many automated or interesting things you can do with Airtable that just gives you full transparency on exactly where our clients are, what's the latest, where are they at, what do we need to do to make
Mhm.
sure we're taking care of them. Um, I mean, man, Airtable is. I kind of always say at this point, because we've been doing this for 4 years, Ben. I'm like, if I have an idea, there's a really high chance Airtable can do it. We
Yep.
just have to figure out how we get there. But the answer almost always is yes, and then it's kind of up to us to figure out how we get there. But that's what I love about Airtable, man. It's like any idea that pops into my head or my boss's head, it's like,
Yep.
okay, let me book a meeting with Ben and let's talk about this. Let's figure out how we can implement this. And 99% of the time we figure out some a solution that works well. So
Yep.
that's been my biggest kind of experience with Airtable is, man, it you can if you can think about it, you can probably accomplish it.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to double click on one thing you mentioned there, which was the status field.
Hmm.
So the status field, in my opinion, is something that's very underappreciated in Airtable. People like look it over, I would say, but I
Hmm.
think it's one of the most powerful things that we work on because it basically illustrates the transformation of whatever we're tracking in Airtable. So you said like your boss or you have something you want to do in Airtable, but really you want to like transform something. So could you talk about maybe some of the different status fields that you have and the transformation that those status fields are tracking?
So I think I can give you kind of two main examples for at least what we do here. So one of them I kind of already touched on, which is our clients, right? So
Mhm.
we track them from the moment they sign up to basically when they commit to a school and every step in between. So we track their stages, their progress, right? Have they done
Mhm.
their college target list, for example? Have we sent out their first email communication? Have we done multiple communications? Have we done a tweet? Have we done a recommendation email? Are they talking to coaches? All of this we track. So from step one of them signing up with us to step whatever they commit, everything is trackable. We even have things we've done where we can track how long it took them to get from stage to stage or from
Mhm.
sign up to committed and things like that. And all of that's trackable. We walk them through every step of the process, and it's just super easy to go from, again, sign up to committed. And that's our big measurables, right? We
Mhm.
want every family that we work with and every student athlete that we work with to find a place to play college sports. That's our goal. And Airtable can track every single step of the way.
Yep.
And then with our advisors, so part of our kind of business model is we have recruiting advisors that we work with all around the country who are kind of experts in their field. So again, our main focus right now is baseball. So we might
Mhm.
have former college baseball players or coaches or experts in that field. And so when we go and hire new people, kind of the same thing. From the moment we hire them, we have automations that send them the paperwork, and then that notifies us in Slack, and then that allows me then to add them to our CRM, and then I update their status. And we have a commission structure that we've created, and every advisor that we hire starts at a lower level, right? And then as they go through the process, I update that, I track it, I update their
Yep.
progress, their stage movements, things like that. And so very similar to the families and the student athletes we work with, we do the same thing on kind of the back end and with our advisors that we work with and our employees, for lack of a better term, and track everything, whether it's how much, how many clients they have versus how much money they get paid,
Mhm.
where are they in terms of commission structure, all that stuff. Every single thing is tracked in Airtable. And, Ben basically worked together with me and we built everything. So, I mean, it's not an overstatement to say that probably 80% of what we do at SportsForce is in Airtable in some capacity.
Yep.
And the things that aren't in Airtable are probably talking to other systems through Zapier. So
Yep.
um, it's a major part of what we do. And like you said, being able to track their status and where they're at is such a great insight. So it takes away the guesswork, right? Of, oh,
Mhm.
where is this advisor at, or where is this family at? Everything's there.
Yeah.
You just have to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So double clicking on another thing we were just talking about is we work together throughout a lot of this, but one of the areas where you handle a lot more of what I would say is the legwork is getting the buy-in from a lot of these external users. So these
Hmm.
advisors, you have already built a really good relationship with them.
Hmm.
And so could you talk a little bit about what worked well? Because there's certain aspects of the Airtable system or the like connected systems, whether it's like a CRM or a form or anything like this that you got their buy-in on. So what worked well for you to get these all the users to buy in and use Airtable?
Yeah, so it was, a process like most things are, right? You introduce new systems and, people, sometimes have reservations. But what I was able to do is show them exactly how it works. And one of the things, I'm not going to say it was a major issue, but one of the things we struggled with a little bit was not having full transparency over what each advisor was doing for each family that they worked with.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it became well, the family said X and the advisor said Y, and we kind of had to figure out what the truth was. Well, basically what I told them, and the way I pitched it to guys to get them to buy in, I said, hey, you want to protect yourself? You want to make
Yeah.
sure that, the work that you're doing gets noted and is full transparency, then use Airtable, update the information when you talk to a family, fill out the coaching call form so that they that we can see, oh, you talked to the family on this day at this time and everything's documented, and the family gets
Hmm.
also a copy of that. And so if a family comes to us, months later and says, well, I never heard from X advisor, or, they didn't do anything. Well, we don't have to then have you try to find it or say, well, I got to look at my phone. Everything's documented. It's right there.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they got a copy of it. I have a copy of it. I can send them everything. I have all
Yeah.
the dates. I can see exactly when you did it. There's no more guesswork. There's no more he said, she said kind of stuff. So that was my big pitch is I was like, this is a protection method for
Hmm.
yourself, and it keeps track of all your work. And again, there's no, I got to go find this or I have to go back and see. It's all right there. And I think that was the key thing for guys. They were like, okay, I have full transparency on this. I not only can I see everything that my clients are doing and full and all that stuff, but I can make sure I document what I'm doing. And so that way, again, if someone complains or there's an issue, there's there's no guesswork. It's all right there. And I think that was the big like light bulb moment for most guys. They're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's other people that they don't need much convincing. Like I don't feel like you need much convincing to use Airtable. How about on the internal teams, like the advisors, for perspective, I think they're a little bit closer to not quite external users, but they're a little
Mhm.
bit further on the edge. But you have like a
Right.
core internal team at SportsForce.
Yeah, so our admin team or back end team, whatever you want to call us, we fully utilize Airtable every single day. I mean, um, I use it pretty much every single day for, again, commissions or client management or things like that. Every once in a while, we'll even run baseball combines where essentially we go out to a field and we film a bunch of student athletes around the baseball diamond, and we actually created entirely new bases, Airtable bases, to keep track of all that. And there's automation in there too. So almost every aspect of our business is done in Airtable, like I said, in some capacity. And our internal team loves it because, again, it's pretty simple to use. It's, to create some of the systems, obviously you're going to need someone like Ben who can, do all that stuff. But once the systems are created, that's what I love about Airtable. It's just works for the
Hmm.
most part. Like every once in a while you'll get something that messes up, but you create it and then it works. And now I have an entire system that I can go to every single day, and it gives me all the information I need, and all of our internal employees work with it. I mean, I haven't even touched on this, but we also have an entire video editing team which is integrated into
Yeah.
the client management base, and it gets Slack notifications, and that one has its own set of status updates, right? Oh, we got the footage, they're in stage 1. Oh, we're editing it, they're in stage 2. Oh, the family needs to review it, they're in you know what I mean? And it goes
Yep.
again, it's like a microcosm or like a mini version of the full client uh kind of relationship where the client signs up and then they commit. So that's a very long process. But the
Hmm.
the video editing part of it is just a smaller version of that. So we get the footage and the video is posted and approved. And every single stage in between is tracked,
Yeah.
it's regulated. There are notifications that we get to Slack if a family isn't approving it, or if it's not edited in time, or if the advisor didn't review it and approve it. So, like I said, we use Airtable like to an insane degree,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's become so efficient at this point. I don't technically have to go in and look every day because I'll get notified if something goes wrong.
Yep.
Essentially, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, man, our internal team loves it, and we use it constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super integrated with Slack.
Yep.
So yeah, fires are notified to you before they're actual fires
It,
now.
No, exactly. There's no putting out fires after they happen because I'll know about them before they actually get started most of the time. And I can't tell you how big a difference that makes, right? I mean, we're dealing with parents and their kids. Like, this is a very personal and sensitive subject matter, right? These are their
Mhm.
babies, right?
Yeah.
And so knowing that we have these systems in place to be like, okay, so and so hasn't, we haven't heard from them in a couple of weeks. Let's reach out to them. Let's again put out the fire before it starts
Yeah.
is game changing.
Yeah. So looking back on where Airtable started,
Hmm.
where we started when where Airtable was when we started. Airtable didn't have automations, they didn't have interfaces. At that time, I know
Right.
we've
Yeah.
built
No
a bunch of different
interfaces.
interfaces now with SportsForce. So I guess looking towards the future,
Hmm.
what are some of the things where you see, like, where do you see SportsForce systems being in 5 years, or where do you see maybe Airtable going in 5 years?
Hmm.
What would be the things you want to see to make your life even easier with SportsForce?
Sure. No, that's a great question. I think one big thing with Airtable that I would love to see them implement in some capacity that's simpler is the ability to generate reports and be able to send them to advisors automatically or
Mm,
quickly. You know, a
yeah.
big thing that we do with Airtable is we have an entire commissions base, right? And everything is there. And I have full transparency on it. But our advisors really don't unless they become a paid user. And then that gets very, very expensive. And it's not really feasible for the most part because they would only use it once a month essentially to look at their sales reports, right?
Yep.
And so I'd love for Airtable to make it very simple to say, oh, here's so and so advisor, generate report, send, or automatically generate report and send, or something that just makes it much more simple and easy. Right now, you kind of have to do a lot of workarounds and it's a little bit frustrating. And for the most part, I just generate stuff manually and send them to guys.
Yep.
Um, but that would be a big thing that I'd love to see them implement. Um, and then I think they've done a really good job of the interfaces and taking, because Airtable is great with storing data, but it wasn't so great with displaying the data in a easy to digest way.
Hmm.
And so they've come a long way in terms of generating charts and graphs and making it really easy to kind of do things. I still think they could take another step there and have even more and add more to the interfaces so it's
Yeah.
super simple, it's easier. Any kind of chart or graph or metric that you want to make look nice is easy, even easier than it is now. Because sometimes I know, Ben, we've worked on this and it can be like pulling teeth sometimes to try
Yeah.
to get some of the information. So I think those would be the two things that I'd like to see is easier automation to like external users, and then continue to update and make it easier for graphics and to display all that great data that we have in our system.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we don't use Airtable AI yet with
Mhm.
SportsForce, but I think that would be like that's one of my goals with Airtable is that eventually they come out with a way where and so for context, Andrew is at SportsForce and he's always asking Jeff for these numbers. And then that means Jeff comes to me and he's like,
Right.
Ben, can you create these numbers? I would love to see like an Airtable AI in the interface where Andrew can go in there and be like, give me this number, and it builds
Right.
like a dashboard for him because he
Sure.
could like he wants those numbers like right now. And we've built most, I'd say 90% of the charts and graphs that Andrew will want on a routine basis,
Right.
but occasionally he wants it like just slightly twisted.
Yeah. Or something very, very specific that isn't the easiest to find.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, I know I'm with you on that, man. If we could say, hey, go here and type in a sentence, and it will give you accurate data, man, it
Yeah.
would make my job a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be pretty awesome. Uh, I guess speaking of AI, this was not one of the planned topics, but do you have you had any ideas on what you could use AI for in Airtable?
I mean, I think it's one thing I think that could help is generating, you know, responses to families for
Mhm.
very common questions that we get. I mean, you can only create so many templates, right?
Yeah.
To the point where if you have 50 templates, it almost becomes a moot point to then have 50. Then you have to find the right one, right? So
Yeah.
I think it'd be great if you could say, hey, here's the question, and AI goes bup, 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 and then you grab it and you maybe tweak it a little bit and be able to send it out.
Yeah.
Um, because copywriting takes time, right? It's a time consuming process.
Hmm.
So I think AI could be great for that. And then, like you said, if there's very specific data relationship numbers that might take you, Ben, 30 minutes to an hour to try to create one thing, if you could just type, hey, I want to know X and Y, or compare X and Y versus Z, and you
Hmm.
just type it in, and AI is like, here you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Saves
Yeah.
everybody time, right? And it makes it easier
Yeah.
to find that information.
Yeah. Basically, leverage the entire database that we've created, all the
Hmm.
numbers or statuses and all of that, and
Yeah,
come up with the charts and graphs that I need.
because a big thing is when Andrew, my boss, asks a question about, hey, can you get X or Y or whatever? And my typical answer is probably, but I'll have to talk to Ben.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Well, thank you, Jeff, so much for joining us here today. It was super great to have you on again. I know we had one maybe like 2 years ago, but
Yeah.
things have changed so much even in the last
Oh,
two
yeah.
years with interfaces, building more into commissions. So I look forward to keep on working with you guys in the future. But thank you for joining. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me, Ben. I appreciate it. And I appreciate everything you've done for us. We would not be in the position that our company is now without you and your work and Airtable and all the integrations that we've had. I mean, um, it's rare that I say you can't put a price on what you've done for our company, but you really can't. There is no amount of money that would be too much to explain how big a difference you and your team has made when it comes to transforming this company into where we're at today. So thank you.
That's awesome. That's such kind words. Thank you, Jeff. I really
No
appreciate it.
problem, man.
It's always looking forward. I'm always looking forward to joining our calls. They're always a lot of fun.
100%
Um,
agree, man.
always got to
Appreciate you.
fix stuff and build stuff. So thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Take it easy.